Hello guys, welcome to StudyIQ. I'm Safir. In this session, we are going to talk about something related to industry. So what I'll do is I'll first discuss about the assessment of new industrial policy 1991 because we have already covered this NIP 1991. And what I'll do is I'll go for the assessment of this policy. Okay, so this is the first topic that we are going to discuss. Very important for mains as well as prelims also. And then what I'll do is, if you look into industry, what all things will come in this sector? If you see, mining and quarrying will come, right? Mining and quarrying, and then most important will be manufacturing. So I'll be also talking about this manufacturing and then electricity, gas, water supply, and then construction. All these are what is actually coming in the industry. Now, if you take it like primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary sector, then mining will go to primary. Everything else will remain in secondary. Why mining and quarrying is related to nature, so it will go to primary. Everything else will remain in secondary. So here when I'm talking about industry, these are the things which is coming under that. So the second topic that we are going to discuss is related to manufacturing sector. Why manufacturing sector is stagnant? Why it is not giving that good growth as compared to services, and why it is not capable of providing that kind of employment that we are actually expecting from this particular sector. So that is again very important for your essay and your mains and for your overall knowledge as well. So we will be looking into that and we'll discuss one by one the different reasons why this sector is remaining stagnant. And if possible, we will try to discuss the solutions and the schemes like Make in India and all those things we will try to cover here. So the first topic that I want to discuss is the assessment of NIP 1991. So you can just give a heading, assessment of NIP. Guys, this policy already I have discussed, right? New industrial policy, what are the components in that? What are the reforms that we have done? In the previous video, we have already covered. So let's start with growth. What has actually happened with the growth? Mainly industrial growth. So if you look into industrial growth, like if you see 1980s, okay, and then let's talk about five years, like 92 to 97, the ninth plan, right? And then 97 to 2002, and then 2002 to 2007, or even like 2000, let's take it till 2011. So if you see 1980s, the growth is like picking up. That time, this is the time where the takeoff is actually happening due to the previous policies. So you will be seeing around 7.5%, right? And then immediately after this, like if you see, it is again hovering around 7.5%. And here you can see it actually decreased and it is close to 5%. I have already told you the reason why there was a decrease in the previous session. And then it is slightly improving 8%. And then there is a slowdown, right? So this is what you can see. And this is something which you need to remember, the industrial growth post-reform. Secondly, we need to talk about the industrial productivity. As I've told you, what productivity related issue we are facing a lot. So industrial productivity, it actually increased. The productivity is actually increased. Now, how you measure productivity? Guys, I've talked about this concept of ICOR, incremental capital output ratio, capital to output. How much capital is required for certain output, right? So like capital to output ratio. Now, the value higher, ICOR value higher means it is inefficient. Efficiency is less. ICOR value lower means efficiency is high. Efficiency is good. So ICOR related question they have asked 2-3 times in prelims. Incremental capital output ratio. ICOR high means not efficient. ICOR value low means efficient. And the ICOR value is actually consistently coming down. That means efficiency is actually increasing or productivity is actually increasing consistently. Now, why? Because you can see here, ICOR value high means what? More capital is required for a particular output. On the other hand, ICOR value less means less. Like, let's talk about two firms, A and B. A produce this pen and B produce the same pen. So let's say both are producing, let's say 100 quantity. 100 quantities produced by A, that means output is 100. B also produce 100 quantity. Now A will produce this with a capital of, let's say, 5,000, and B will produce with a capital of, let's say, 7,000. So what you can understand here, B takes 7,000 to produce 100 quantity, but A take 5,000 only to produce 100 quantity. So who's more efficient? A, one unit will cost you around how much? It will cost you 5 rupee. On the other hand, B, one unit cost you will be around 7 rupee. This itself is actually your I core. So lower the value capital to output. This is actually your I core, and this is actually the per unit cost of production. Lower the value, better the efficiency or better the productivity. Now, this is actually what is required in a competitive environment, right? Because it is helping the consumer. At the same time, you are getting a very good price. And this guy cannot survive in the market for a long period of time. Why? Because this person who produced at the firm producing at 5 rupee, they take a profit of, let's say, 2 rupee. So taking profit of 2, and still he can sell in the market at 7. But if this guy is taking at least a profit of 1 rupee, he will have to sell at 8. So who will buy from that person who's selling at 8 when you are getting it at 7? That too, that firm is getting 2 rupee profit. So over a period of time, the inefficient firms cannot survive. So we always need a lower I core value. You forget about what is all these things and the mathematical expressions and everything. Understand what is I core, capital to output ratio. It has to be less. What is desirable? Low I core value. High I core means inefficient. Low I core means efficient. We, over a period of time, consistently reduced our I core value. That means we are reducing the capital which is required to produce the output. That means efficiency is actually increasing or productivity is actually increasing. Since independence, the problem that we were facing is actually lack of productivity or efficiency, and we are improving it, right? So that is very important. I core values consistently decreased. So they may not tell you in terms of productivity. They may not give you the answer in terms of efficiency. They may give you in terms of I core value. So they will see with respect to this assessment of industrial policy, which among the following is correct. I core value is consistently decreasing, means efficiency is increasing. Efficiency is increasing. If they are giving in the answer, you may directly be able to pick it. But I core, it may be confusing for at least some of you. That's why I've made it very clear. The corporate profitability. Now, let's look at the next point. Corporate profitability increased significantly. How is it evident? You can see corporate income tax, it is increased, right? So the collection is also increased, and they are contributing at a very good level as well. So before excise was high, now corporate income tax is double that of excise. Okay. Now the next one, growth of consumer goods industries, that is also increased. Consumer goods industries, that is something which you can write along with this. Okay, consumer good industries. Consumer goods industries also grown at a very good level. Growth of capital goods industries, what have happened? Capital goods industries, it is actually decreased. Why? The reason. Guys, if you remember, I have discussed about Nehru-Mahalanobis model, and from second 5-year plan, we have gone for a more of public investment oriented growth, right? We need, industry is going to be the main runner for the growth, and for industry, we are depending on heavy machines and heavy industries like steel, iron, cement, etc. And if you remember, I've told already that government was coming with the investment, because that time private is not capable, because you need huge investment, the machineries, and there is a long gestation period. You are investing now. If you need to take the profit, it is going to take a lot of time, because the investment is such huge level, and then the chances of profit is also very less. And the private, neither they have fund, even some of them have fund, but still they don't want to take that big risk because of this long gestation period. And thirdly, in case if the private is coming in these kinds of areas, what will happen is 1 or 2 players will come, and that may eventually lead to monopoly, which is not desirable as well, because over a long period of time, they may try to exploit the consumer. So for these reasons, public investment was actually increased. Growth was based on this heavy industries, and it is mainly government investment, the public investment. But post 1991, what has happened with the public investment? It reduced, right? I told you Before 1991, mixed economy with government regulations and a tilt towards socialism. Government intervention, government investment was high. Post 1991, it is like based on market mechanism. Government intervention is less, a tilt towards capitalist setup, and the approach is basically based on trickle down. You throw something to top, it will come down. If there is a growth, automatically employment will be created, poverty will be removed, inequality will be removed, and everything with time. So that's the trickle down approach. So what have happened? The public investment have come down. So capital goods is mainly coming from public investment that has actually come down, and that also led to a lot of other issues because labor intensive investments and everything is what we were expecting, but then it also created a lot of unemployment related issues. But the point is capital goods have actually came down because it was public investment mostly. Okay, so you can even write here public investment have reduced. Okay, now the next one, growth of registered manufacturing companies or manufacturing corporates. Registered means formal, it is actually increased. Unregistered, it is actually decreased. So that is something, mainly a kind of formalization is there, registration process and everything is there. So like growth of unregistered, like MSME and all, it is decreased. Capital intensity of industry increased. Labor intensity decreased. Just before I've told you, we were expecting labor intensive investment. What is the advantage if there is a labor intensive investment? Because that will create employment opportunities. But instead, what has happened is it was mainly capital intensive investment. So it led to unemployment rather than our expectation. What we were expecting was it will create a lot of employment opportunities if there is a labor intensive investment. But contrary to our expectation, the labor intensive investment did not come. It was mainly capital intensive, and that led to unemployment situation have increased. Employment opportunities have decreased. So poverty have increased. And NSSO survey is actually making it very clear. Post 1991, the poverty have actually increased. We were expecting that it'll come down, trickle down will happen. It never happened. Obviously, trickle down will take a lot of time. Okay, and that's the reason why post 2005 onwards, mid 2005 onwards, government intervention have actually increased. So where market cannot satisfy the requirements or the needs, market cannot meet the social justice. So government intervention is required. Where market fail, government have to support. So government intervention is required, but it has to be like limited. Wherever market fail, their government have to interfere. Market will try to match the difference between demand and supply, but not the need and supply. Market won't provide food for poor, but market will provide luxury to those who have money. So market is not going to meet the social justice part like poverty, inequality, etc. Market will produce only if there is a demand. So government intervention is definitely required. So we still are a mixed economy. Government intervention will be there where market fail. Okay. So that's what, guys, I'm not writing that. Capital intensive investment increased, labor intensive investment decreased. That's a very, very important point. Okay. Now before we had a deficit market. Like if you want something, the deficit market means what? Supply is actually very less. Like you order for a car or you order for a bike or something, you will have to wait for 6 months or even 1 year if you need to get that. So there is a deficit. When there is deficit, what is the problem? Consumer have to pay more. And like when you want a bike or a car, like you have the money, so you are supposed to pay, you are ready and willing to pay more and more money. So the chances that the companies will exploit the consumer was so high in a deficit market where there is a shortage. But now the deficit market is not there. Now there is a surplus market. So what happened? The monopoly have come down. Exploitation of consumer has actually reduced. Consumer have more choices. You go anywhere, whatever now you want a two-wheeler, you go to Yamaha, you will get it. Or you go to Hero Honda, you will get it. Or you go to some other brand, you will get it easily. So there is no possibility that the corporates will actually exploit the consumer because consumer have more choices when there is surplus. So we have moved from a deficit market to a surplus market, or you can say this is the consumer's market. Consumer's market where the consumer have the good, control. And this was a producer's market. So this is all about what producer will say. You want it, you went there, but they say not available. You pay more, we will give you. Right? So it is a producer's market. Now it is consumer's market. We have the bargaining power. We can bargain because they have excess. They have to sell it to us to some, their target have to be met and all those things. So you have that bargaining power. Yeah, I'll take it if I get it at this level. You can tell that now. But that was not the situation before. Okay. Now let's look into the impact of firms owned by Indians. Impact on firms owned by Indians. So what is a positive mainly? There is a possibility of foreign collaboration. When you open up the economy, there is a possibility of foreign collaboration. So when you have that the possibility of foreign collaboration, new better technology, new management practices and all those things is going to come, right? So that also will definitely improve the profitability and mostly efficiency. So that foreign collaboration possibility is high. Second, that lead to technology transfer. Technology transfer. So now import of machinery, raw materials, etc. become easier. And then ease of doing business is also increased. External commercial borrowing possibilities have increased. But what is a negative? Negative is the MSMEs suffered. Guys, I don't know whether you can connect it with 1813 Charter Act. There was 1813 Charter Act. In that there was a provision of end of monopoly. End of monopoly means except in two items, that is trade with China and trade in tea products. That means more and more English companies are going to come to India, not only East India Company. So what has happened here? All these Manchester clothes and Liverpool clothes and all these finished products, they started pumping to Indian markets. Because all these companies are coming, they're looking this as a very good market and they started pumping all the finished products. So what ultimately happened is the life of artisans ruined because these finished products are looking great and very cheap also because it has been produced by machines, and these are finished products compared to the products which has been made by the artisans in India, which is expensive because they put a lot of effort and time, and it is not that finished and not looking good also compared to them. The quality wise also may not be that good. So the demand for the Indian products have come down and artisans suffered very, very badly. And that led to deindustrialization in India. The root cause of deindustrialization, or the next topic that I'm going to discuss, the manufacturing sector, why it is stagnant. The main reason, the root cause is actually coming from 1813 Charter Act, because there is no scope for further development of industry in India after 1813 Charter Act, because all these finished products are coming from England. They pumped everything here. Now, we cannot start anything and we cannot compete with them. So that possibility is over. Then you got a chance during Swadeshi movement and during World War I, World War II, when the British companies were not able to produce. So that's when we got some boost. But the root cause is there. Why? Deindustrialization. 1813 Charter Act, when you discuss in history, the most important impact is deindustrialization. And that's the reason why artisans have heavily participated in 1857 revolt also. All right, guys. So I hope this both are one way or the other connected. So same was the impact here. MSMEs, the local industries, have suffered. The small scale industries have suffered. They cannot compete with these big players, especially again when you're getting this foreign support, technology transfer, and all those things. Okay, so that's about the assessment of 91, NIP 1991. Now, why this manufacturing sector is stagnant? Let's look into that now. If you see the growth since 1991, I'll just show you growth since 1991. So let's see, agriculture, we are targeting 4%. We are able to get around 3%. Okay, so this is what the contribution of agriculture. And then industry is growing at 7.5, right? We were just talking about that. 7.5. That 7.5 during 80s, then 7.5, 92 to 97, then 5, then 8, then it is slowed down. So 7.5. Okay, guys, these data are very important. Okay, and then services growing at around 9%, and overall we are going at around 7.3%. That is the overall GDP growth during this time. Now you can see here the growth of industry is actually less than the growth of services. So services growing at a faster pace compared to industry, and the contribution, if you look into, that is also very high. The contribution of service sector is around 51, 52%. But the problem is service sector is not able to accommodate people. That means it is not able to provide. The contribution in terms of employment is less. So because of that, This growth is led by service sector, but the contribution of service sector in employment is very less. That lead to jobless growth. That is not considered desirable. So what could be the best thing that can happen here is manufacturing should do well or industry should do well, because this is labor intensive. More employment opportunities will be there. So the solution to the problem that we are facing is actually this one. Our manufacturing sector should do well or industry should do well. Okay, so these things you can write. What are the reason we are talking about? The reason for stagnant growth of or share of manufacturing sector in industry is stagnant. Why? Mainly ease of doing business. I'll be talking about various schemes also in the coming session, what we have done, Make in India, and all those things to make things better. So first you can write ease of, because these are something which you need to write in all the answers, right? Ease of doing business is slightly difficult and we need to do something to improve that. Why ease of doing business? Because of rigid labor laws and problems in clearances like environmental impact, environmental clearances and various clearances. So ease of doing business is not that friendly. Rigid labor laws. Labor laws is a very big issue actually. Okay. Second, problem in land acquisition. Guys, I'm generally talking about the problems. You should be in a position to write these. These are common issues. Everywhere we can write it. That's the only reason why I'm discussing it now here. So land acquisition is a big problem, big challenge. Like where the land is acquired, what kind of land, and what kind of compensation, where these people need to be settled, what kind of settlement has to be given, financial settlement. What, not only financially you can settle them, you need to settle them emotionally, psychologically, socially, culturally, right? All these need to be looked into. Okay, so land acquisition is a big challenge. And then inadequate infrastructure is a big problem. Technology aspect is anyway coming under infrastructure. So lack of skilled labor. Guys, these are general points which you can write anywhere. That's why I'm stressing on this. And why service sector is growing. If you look into that, more FDI, more foreign investment is coming in service sector. That is also one of the reasons why service is growing and compared to industry. So if you can attract some foreign investments in industry, it will come with a lot of good practices and technology. Then it is going to do good, right? So what are the repercussions? Industry is more labor intensive. Okay. Industry is labor intensive. I've told you, if the industry is doing good, if you have a vibrant industrial growth or industrial sector or manufacturing sector, this is going to help you a lot in terms of employment opportunities. That can solve a lot of other problems. So industry is labor intensive, 31% of GDP, but the contribution in terms of 31% of GDP is there, but contribution in terms of employment is hardly 24%. Service is even worse. So you see, 31% is the contribution, and close to that contribution in employment is there. But agriculture contribution is very less, 17-15%, and the contribution in employment is around 50%. That is like disguised unemployment. That's not desirable actually. Okay, but service sector is around 51%, right? More than 50% is there in GDP, but even less, around 27% only. So can you see here? That is what I've told you. This growth is based on service sector. It's a service-oriented growth, and they're not capable of giving that employment opportunities. That's why jobless growth. Growth is there, but people are unemployed. Growth is there. Some sections are growing, but others are living pathetic. Okay. So now, what is the conclusion from this? What I want to tell you is industry is labor intensive. So post 1991, what I've told you is capital intensive investment has come. That means mostly in service, not labor intensive. That means not in industry. So if you can promote that, or if you can bring that into industry, what will happen? Industry is labor intensive. It can solve the problem of unemployment automatically, other social issues, and the well-being of people will be increased and the development will automatically come, right? So that is how you need to take care of industrial sector. And it is crucial for sustaining high growth of services and overall GDP. Because if your industry is doing good, that's when service also do good, right? All the services are actually connected with the industry. So to sustain the growth in services, you need an industrial sector which has to be vibrant and doing good, and overall growth also. So in that way as well, industry is very important and crucial for improving external balance, like trade deficit, current account deficit, balance of payment, etc. Why? Because if your industry is doing good, you can reduce the import, you can substitute the import, you can export more. So the trade deficit problem will come down. Automatically, current account deficit will come down. Balance of payment situation will be better. Forex will improve. All these are the advantages. So for this, there are a lot of things has been done, like national manufacturing policy and all. We'll be discussing about that later in the coming session. But guys, what I wanted to discuss is about the assessment of new industrial policy 1991. I hope that is very clear. The growth contribution is there, but it has been slowed down. I-core is very important. That's a key takeaway from this. I-core higher means efficiency is lower, means you need more capital for the output. I-core value lower means better efficiency. You need less capital for the output. The firm producing certain output with less capital is better because the cost of production per unit is less. That is what you mean by efficiency. So I-core value need to be less, and other things we discussed. So I hope you enjoy the video. In case if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. You can comment below if you have any questions. Consider subscribing the channel also. Thank you. See you in the next session.